Hello everyone, this is my Lexus LS430, and in this video I'm going to show you how I installed factory parking sensors into a car that didn't originally spec it from the factory. Right, for the interior you're going to need four components here. These first two in the middle are what are known as the clearance sonar buzzers. So these are the little basically speakers that make the noise when you get close to hitting something. There's one that lives in the rear of the vehicle underneath the parcel shelf, and there's one at the front of the vehicle roughly in the driver's footwell. There's a rear one and a front one so that you can hear that the sound is coming from behind you when you're about to back into something, or from the front when you're about to hit something in front of you. These do have different part numbers. Again, part numbers are listed in the description. The rear one attaches with a simple plastic clip, so you don't need any bracket or screws or anything for that one. The front one does attach via this little bracket here. If you're getting this from breakers, try to get it so it's still got the bracket on it. The next bit we're looking at is this panel. Now this panel sits near the steering wheel. Here is one from my car, which you can see looks exactly the same in terms of the mirror controls, but does not have this button. This button is the button that simply turns on and off the parking sonar sense system. What you're looking for here is you're looking to get one that's the same color as your existing system and that's laid out in the same way. If you're in a left-hand drive country, you've got a left-hand drive car, yours won't look quite like this. Your parking brake release lever is underneath this, so you've actually got less room in that part of the dashboard than right-hand drive cars do. So that's what you need. You basically just need one that matches in color but just has an extra button and otherwise looks like your factory one. And the last component that we're looking at, this is the brains of the operation. This is the clearance sonar electronic control module, or ECM. This basically controls the whole system. There's a large plug on the bottom of it, and if you buy it you need to get the bracket with it. This lives in the boot, in the trunk, and I'll show you where that is when we come to install it. This will basically communicate with all the sensors and then pass that information onto your dash cluster and show which sensors are going off and what's happening with the car. This did definitely change part number for the facelifts. So that's everything we need for the interior. Okay, let's turn our attention now to what's required on the exterior of the vehicle. The short version of this is that we need a total of 10 parking sensors in various different sizes. We will need a subloom that goes inside the front bumper, a different subloom that goes inside the rear bumper, and we will need 10 clips to hold those various parking sensors in. You do not need to buy the entire bumper skins. It is possible to make the holes in your existing bumper to add these in. In more detail, the front bumper has a sensor kind of on the side edge, and then it has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sensors. 4 on the outer edges are smaller than the 2 in the middle. It's a similar story on the back, except that the rear bumper cover only has 1, 2, 3, 4. The 2 in the middle are larger than the ones on the outside. Again, the part numbers are all listed in the description for you. Inside the front, you'll notice that each one of these has a clip. These clips hold the wiring. They also hold the sensor in. You will need 10 of these. They are the same part number for all sensors, front and back, big and small. You will also need this loom, as I mentioned. It goes all the way up to there, all the way to that sensor, and terminates in this waterproof connector. On the rear bumper you have a similar loom, and this one terminates slightly differently with a grommet and an interior not waterproof connector. In summary, for the outside of the vehicle you need 10 different parking sensors, you'll need 10 clips, all the same, and you'll need 2 different looms, one for the front and one for the rear. There is no modification required to any wiring for this, or any modification to your dashboard cluster, or any programming that needs to be done for the front bumper and rear bumper skin. Obviously, if you're choosing to use your existing bumper, you will need to cut holes in the appropriate places for these to go in. Alright, so we're going to start with installing the rear parking sensor buzzer. I've gone in and taken the seat bases and just pulled up at the front to release them, and then pulled them back. There's a white connector here that you need to disconnect if you've got heated seats, and we'll just put that out of the way. Basically, we're aiming to get to install right about here, underneath this panel is where the buzzer needs to go. We need to remove the back seats to allow us to do that. Once we've got these seat bases out of the way, there are a couple of 12mm nuts under there. Under the center console there's another one there, and there's one more on the other side. It's a similar story up the top. You have to raise up the headrest, take off these little caps, and you'll find one hiding down in there, and same on the other side. If you bring the armrest down, this simply pulls out, and you'll find another one of those in there. The nuts and all that have been undone as mentioned. I've just pulled the seats forward here. I'm not going to bother completely disconnecting them because we don't really need it for this step. Now, holding on the parcel shelf here, we've got a couple of these little push connectors that we'll need to disconnect. There's another one over that side, down there, and also that connector to give us a little bit more room. We'll also take off the subwoofer grill in the middle. That simply hook your fingers underneath it and lift it up. So I've removed the connectors now, and I've got a little bit of access to get my hand under there. And let's hope you can see this. Right down in there, next to the subwoofer, there's a little white connector, or rather it's actually a dummy connector right here, and it's got a black connector going into it right there. Yep, you can see it now. The white piece is a dummy connector, it does nothing, but the black connector that's on the wire is the one for the sensor. So we simply need to take out that white connector from its where it's pushed into the parcel shelf metal piece there. Just take it out, disconnect it, throw away the white piece, and put our one in its place. Okay, that took a little bit of fiddling, but it is done. There is our buzzer installed where the white connector previously was. Now I'm going to go back, reinstall all my clips, put all this back together, put the seats all back in, and then we'll move on to doing the front buzzer and the push button to enable and disable the system. Okay, it's a couple of minutes later, reinstalled everything. Hopefully you remembered to reinstall the connectors here that do your heated seats, and also the one that was up here. If you've forgotten them, bad luck. So now we'll go up and do the front. In the front we're going to install the front parking buzzer, and we're also going to install this panel. They're both basically in the same area. So looking at steering wheel area, the buzzer lives roughly here in this sort of area. Behind this panel, attaches to the back of it. Obviously we know where this goes. So to start off the job, I've got to put the seat all the way back, by the way, to give yourself some room. So I've undone the two screws that hold this in, pulled it down and just sort of let it hang out the way for now. After I've done that, you can pull this out. You can just do this by hand, undo the three connectors. They're color coded so you can't mess it up going back in, and that will reveal a couple of screws up here which we'll need to remove. By removing the bottom panel, we've also exposed down here a 10mm, and there's another one right on the other side, right up in there. So we'll start by removing those. Okay, so remove those screws and things are getting fairly loose now. Just got a couple more little bits to remove. I had to pull off this little ring over the key area. That just pops off. And then coming to the other side here, a little panel here with a vent in it. I think it's a little temperature sensor. So pulled that out, disconnected the temperature sensor from the back, and that reveals right up in there, it's quite hard to see, another little screw. So we'll remove that one, and then I think we'll be good to move this out. Okay, we're free. This is now able to pull out and come down, so we can get in behind it. That's a different buzzer there. That's the one that makes the annoying noise when you leave your lights on or open the door with your key in the ignition. Where we're putting it is right here. That's where our little bracket goes to mount this. Now the connector that you need is actually up on this loom. If you follow it up from this one, you'll see right here, that's the connector we need. And it's held in place by this little piece of white tape here. And there's lots of excess wire there. Install our sensor into there using one little screw on the bracket, and then put it all back together. There we go. Front warning buzzer installed. There's our new sensor on its bracket. There's the red wires which were taped up here. So let's just put all this back together, and then finally at the end we will slide this into place. Okay, that's all gone back together now. The last piece of the puzzle is this panel with the parking sensor button. I've attached all the wires and just push them in. What we haven't done yet is the parking sonar control module, which lives in the boot. Right, on to the last piece of the interior puzzle, which is the control module. We're going to start by opening the boot and remove a couple of easy bits. We'll take off this panel, easy enough. Also the one on this side, we're aiming to get in behind here. So we'll also take out this, we'll pull off this piece as well and take that out. And then in here, you've got these little clips. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 of them to come off, to take this piece off, and also you're going to need to undo the 10mm bolts that hold on here and on the other side, and take those out. After we've done that, this piece here will just lift straight out. All of that removed. I also went ahead and removed this awkward little clip that holds that corner in, and there was also a couple more clips, one there and one slightly further up there, to be removed. Once that's done, you can kind of ease this out of the way a little bit. Don't need it out all the way, just need to have it moved slightly. And that gives us access to this piece, which the toolbox would go in. And the ECM that we're mounting actually goes on the back side of this. So what we're going to do is remove this nut here, bolt. There's another one up there, and one down there. Right, with those 3 removed, this simply comes out. Look at that. There's the connector we need. So this piece, which is just coming out this way, on the back of it are 2 screw holes, and our ECM goes into those holes just like that, with the connector facing downwards. And then we'll just tighten up 2 nuts on them, plug it into that connector over there. We're going to then bolt this back in, but we're not going to put together any of the rest of the bits for now. The reason for that is because when we come to remove the bumper, we're going to need access to these screws. We're also going to need access to that yellow piece down there, and as well as that, we're going to need to get into a lot of these holes going across here. Right, I've plugged that in. I've just quickly put one screw in there just so that it's kind of supported. Let's go up front and see what the system does. Now, bear in mind, at the moment we have no parking sensors installed, so although we've installed all the buzzers and everything we need internally, the system should record some sort of fault. Transmission in park. This button is in the off position, so it's further out. I'll just turn the ignition on, don't need to start the car. The center of the screen there is blank. Press the button, we should hear an initial beep, and then if there's any errors it should start beeping on and off a number of times. There we go. So it did the initial beep, and then I think it did 5 sets of double beeps. You can see that it's now showing a parking system, and on each corner and each middle section it's flashing, which indicates that there's a fault. So it says there's a fault on the outer sensors, the fault in the middle sensors, and so on all the way around. Internally, all the wiring is absolutely working fine. We can hear the beeps, so we know that the buzzers are working fine. But the next thing we'll have to do then is get some parking sensors into bumpers. Alright, we're left off with the interior electrics done, so now let's move on and remove this rear bumper cover. So we've already got this partially disassembled. We'd left one bolt in there. Let's take that back out again, take these two out as well, and we'll do the same on the other side. It's the same procedure for taking out that piece of trim, and you get identical nuts and bolts on the other side. Also in here we've got these circular holes here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. They've got 10 mils. You're going to have to get right in there and take out. Then on the outside of the vehicle, we're going to take off this plastic trim here. There should be 1, 2, 3 and 1 on the underside holding that on. And while you're there, you'll also find another 10mm nut there. And then underneath the back of the vehicle, and right on this bottom edge, you'll find 4 of these little plastic clips. We'll pop all 4 of those out. I'll come back to you then once that's done and show you the last couple of bits that we need to remove to get that bumper skin off. Right, those nuts and bolts are now removed. The last pieces we need to undo are those yellow clips right down in there on both sides. Now if I come to the outside here, looking at the top, you can kind of just see in the edge there is where the yellow is. Now there's a screw that goes up into it from the underside that we need to loosen off so that it's not clamping anymore. And to do that, we're going to need to remove just this one clip. Then we should be able to push this lining out of the way and get a screwdriver to insert up to undo that. And just like that, it's off. So I put a mat down and then just pull the bumper backwards slightly and it just releases. Right, so looking at the inside of the bumper, I've put some yellow arrows here so you can see them a little bit better. But there should be 4 marks. There's one above the arrow. And there's another one. And a 3rd one. And up in the corner, a 4th one. Those are marks for where the holes need to be put in. They are not round or square. They've got a definite domed head to them, the flat bottom. And some of them, like the one on the other side, are inverted. That determines the orientation of the sensor going in. What I'm going to do is put an initial pilot hole through with the drill in the middle, and then use a Dremel tool to very carefully expand out to the size I need. There we go, that's all the holes drilled out with a Dremel. I'm going to put the parking sensors in. Coming around the back, you can see I've already put the other ones in all the way across, put all of their clips in, and clips in the wiring harness. So I'll just put a clip on that last one that I've just put in, connect the wiring harness, and that will leave me with this end with the grommet to put in. If I come over to the car, underneath the taillight on this side there's a hole which had this grommet in it. Just pulled that out, and that leads inside the boot here to that hole down there, and the white connector next to it there with nothing attached to it is where our loom will plug in. So I'm going to put the bumper back on and reassemble everything in here. Alright, since we last spoke, the rear bumper has been refitted. That's all working great. Let's move on to the front. So to start with, I've put the car jacked up on axle stands at the front, turned the steering all the way to one side, and I've gone ahead and removed the engine undercover. So this is about 18 to 20 screws. Just keep on doing screws until that comes out. The first thing we're going to need to do to remove the bumper cover on the front, loosen up this inside panel so that we can get access to two screws that hold it on here and another one that holds it on here. So what we're going to do is go inside the wheel arch. See, there's one screw down there that needs to be taken out. There's another one down the bottom. A row of 1, 2, 3 screws that we also need to undo, and usually there would also be just inside the wheel arch here a plastic clip. Underneath the car, on the under here, where we've removed that panel, that means that screw has been taken out. There's 2 more screws, one there and one up in there. This rubberized piece also needs to come out, so we'll take the 2 bolts that hold that on. As well as that, right the way under here, up by the anti-roll bar, there's another screw in there. So we'll take those screws out both sides, and then I'll come back to you. That's that all removed, and this is now loose for access. I did end up having to remove 2 screws here and here that hold on this piece before it would release. Now, in my case, I have headlight washers, so I'm going to need to remove those, and I'll show you how that's done. The piece ends up looking like that when it's out. So what you'll need to do is pull up with your fingernails until you can pull the whole lot out like that. See, at the front right there, there's a little metal clip that will need to be pulled off, which will then show you a little tab, and there's another tab, you can see that on the back there. Release those 2 tabs and the top will pull out. So once you've removed these 2, we'll then get on to removing these screws. There's 1 screw there to remove. The other 2 are going to be kind of hard for you to see, but they're right down behind this piece, and they hold on this. Unfortunately, I couldn't really record that bit, but I've removed 2 10mm nuts and a screw from in there. The screw was just there. 10mm nuts are on this seam here, there and there. And to get into those, I ended up inserting a long extension into there. Now that they're removed, one last thing to take out. The red connector right at the back behind everything is the fog light connector. So we're going to remove that on both sides. as well as that. There's one in the middle and another plastic connector that side. We'll remove those three, and then I believe that should be everything. Quick little addition before you remove the bumper. If you've got headlight washers, there's a bracket right there. You need to remove the bolt that goes into there at the bottom of the headlight washer. Looks like that. So here it is. I've marked up just like last time. The yellow arrows are the points that I need to cut. You'll see that we have all the little markers here where we need to cut, 6 of them. Go in with my Dremel tool again, cut all 6 of these holes, and in my case I'm actually going to send this bumper out for paint because it's got quite a lot of damage and spidering to it. So the next time you see this, the holes will be drilled and the sensors will be in, and this will be in new paint. Bumper is now back from paint, parking sensors have been installed, bumper's back on. I just want to talk through how you actually connect the wiring. So you'll have this wiring connector coming out, and looking at the car, this side of the car, which would be the left if you're sitting in the driver's seat, take this piece, undo the 3 clips, remove it, and behind that you'll find this connector here. If you undo that dummy cover, chuck that away, you'll then find that this can plug straight in there. Once you've done that, it should be a system installed. We'll just go around, turn on the vehicle, activate the sensors, we'll get a single beep, and then it'll turn out. The system is ready to use. Simple as that. Okay, hopefully that video was nice and clear for everyone. Last point to note is in your owner's manual that comes with the car, under the starting and driving section, you'll find all the details of how the park assist system works. It goes through all the details and also troubleshooting and stuff like that. The main things you'll need to know is that it only operates below 6 miles per hour. That's 10 kilometers per hour. If you're in a forward-facing gear, you're in drive or 3 or whatever, the front sensors will work. If you're in reverse, the rear sensors will work, but also the outer front sensors, so that if you're reversing around a corner you don't swing into something accidentally. It does not work in park. And that's all there is to it, really. If you've got any comments about this video or you have any issues, then stick a comment in the section below. Once again, part numbers for everything in the video are in the description. Thanks for watching.